For generations, scientists and fighters alike have pondered how this happens.
Oh no! That's what we were worried about!
On the surface, the equation seems simple. Strong guy plus whack to the head equals involuntary nap.
Yeah, he's just hanging a big right hand.
But if it's so easy, then why do some fighters possess the touch of death while others can't seem to crack an egg? Really, it all comes down to a basic understanding of science and how to apply it to the sweet science. Used in concert, even beginners can maximize their stopping power.
Oh, and a left hand!
So, let's start with a bit about the brain and why it shuts off. Then, for the martial artists out there, we'll jump into some tried and true methods that take advantage of the brain's natural vulnerabilities. In boxing, a knockout occurs when a fighter is dropped and cannot continue within 10 seconds. But in broader life terms, it's a temporary loss of consciousness from a blow to the head. Early medical researchers coined the term commotio cerebri, or shaken brain, distinguished of course from contusio cerebri, a bruised brain, where consciousness is never regained. And then there's petrificus totalis, which is a spell from Harry Potter. Just kidding. Early boxing textbooks theorized that the perfect knockout is a result from a blow beneath the ear, causing increased blood pressure in both the brain and the heart, resulting in overcharged blood vessels and overloaded sinuses as blood rushes from the man's nose, ears, and mouth. Thankfully, we've learned a lot since then. In truth, your brain floats in a fluid inside your skull. As a fragile, soft organ of vital importance, it's like the thing that runs everything, the fluid helps absorb the minor knocks that come with life. Problems arise when movement is too sudden and violent for the fluid to absorb the shock. Doubly so in cases of extreme weight cutting, where the cushioning system has been drained and not fully replenished. Seriously, fighters out there, you're not just depleting your body fluid, you're depleting the fluid from everywhere, which includes the brain. So actually dropping in weight, if you've had like a string of knockouts, is probably the wrong thing to do. When a punch lands clean, the skull accelerates faster than the brain inside it. The brain lags behind, shaking and twisting, as the nerve fibers connecting the different regions stretch and shear. While brain tissue can handle compression reasonably well, it's the twisting that causes severe damage. This is why punches that rotate the head, hooks, and uppercuts tend to result in more knockouts. On a cellular level, this trauma stretches millions of neurons at once. Their membranes tear, the electrical signaling that keeps you conscious shorts out, and you drop. So, what does this mean for fighting? And what techniques can you use to maximize force, maximize rotation, and minimize the body's ability to absorb or brace for impact? So, the first and most basic aspect of scoring a knockout is knowing how your body generates power. Force is equal to mass times velocity. The more weight you put behind a punch, the faster you deliver it, the more force it's going to connect with. It sounds obvious, but in the sport's biggest hitters, you see a difference in how they generate power compared to the average puncher, and how many different ways there are to go about it. With Joe Louis's right hand, you see full commitment. Maximum mass delivered as fast as he could throw it, lifting his right foot with a punch, carrying his entire body weight through, and right into the moment of impact. In Ryan Garcia's left hook, you see the speed side of the equation, thrown with no load up, delivering his mass through spinning his weight into the shot. Garcia's left catches opponents off guard, faster than their brains can react. The sport is full of fighters who have found different ways to generate power. Those who generate massive torque, the guys who load up on haymakers, and the ones who use their leverage. But generating raw power is only one part of the equation. Sometimes, You need your opponent to do a little bit of work for you. When you catch the opponent coming towards you, that force is amplified by their own velocity. This is why well-placed counter shots produce so many highlight reel knockouts. They're not even necessarily the hardest thrown shots, but timed to take advantage of the opponent's forward momentum. For example, when Marquez faced Manny Pacquiao for the 4th time, he found the perfect shot. Pacquiao had heard him and was recklessly charging in behind his double jab feint. Marquez stepped back and timed a right hand to meet him mid-stride, 2 velocities colliding. Pacquiao was out before he hit the canvas. Another one. When Sergio Martinez had his rematch with Paul Williams, he had learned from studying Williams' patterns. He watched how he moved, and when he committed. In the 2nd round, as Williams threw a naked left hand, Marquez threw a counter overhand left that crumpled him instantly. One of the benefits of a counter is that the shots aren't as visible to the opponent. They don't expect them, and we all know the hardest shots are the ones you don't see coming. A punch you see allows you to prepare. The neck muscles tense, the teeth clench, the body braces, and the brain tells itself, prepare for impact. This resistance limits the head's rotation and, by extension, the brain's movement inside the skull. A punch you don't see bypasses all of these physiological defenses. When Julian Jackson took advantage of his opponent's left slip to throw a right hook from a southpaw stance, there was 0 resistance. Wayne Powell's head whipped all the way around, unconscious on impact before his body hit the floor. One way to achieve this is with feints, distracting the opponent's attention or forcing a bad defensive movement to line up your knockout shot. Likewise, when throwing in combination, offensive patterns force defensive responses. And when you learn to read those responses, you can find the shot they don't see. The setup mechanism is even more important than the punch itself. Of course, even with perfect timing and 0 resistance, where you land matters. If rotation is what shuts down the brain, then the best targets are the ones that maximize rotational force. In boxing's case, the jaw acts as a lever. In general, the further from the skull's center of rotation you land, the more rotational damage occurs. Put it in more concrete terms, a shot to the forehead pushes the head back. A shot to the tip of the chin rotates the head, especially if the chin is up. It's also why when you see shots that look almost grazing go across the center of the face, and a fighter drops, if their head rotated, that's why. The temple offers a different vulnerability. Thinner bone, proximity to important blood vessels, and a location that produces a significant snapping force when hit cleanly. When Nonito Donaire scored his 2011 KO of the year, he did it with a perfect left hook to the temple, leaving a dent in his opponent's skull as his body violently reacted. Punches behind the ear target the vestibular system, which controls your equilibrium or your ability to balance. Disrupt this or damage the ear enough, and the body loses coordination even if consciousness remains, sending opponents stumbling around and unable to keep their footing like a man on stilts. A drunk man on stilts. Even with all these techniques, sometimes the knockout doesn't come from one perfect shot. And that's why volume punchers with really great conditioning are kind of unsung knockout artists. Because even if they don't possess the ability to shut an opponent down with one punch, the brain's protective mechanisms can be worn down. But to understand why, let's delve back into the science just a little bit. When a punch lands, it triggers a chemical cascade inside the brain. Potassium floods out of neurons, and calcium floods in. The brain attempts to restore balance, burning through energy reserves while simultaneously losing its ability to produce more. This creates a window of vulnerability. Each clean punch stretches those membranes a little bit more. Calcium accumulation can persist for days after significant trauma, leaving the brain less able to handle the next impact. A fighter who's absorbed punishment for several rounds is far more vulnerable than a fresh opponent. double so when fatigued. As exhaustion sets in, the legs stop reacting as quickly. The hands drop a little lower, and the head movement that slipped shots in the early rounds starts to slow. Defensive reactions arrive a fraction too late, and punches that would have been partially blocked now land clean. Cardio and mental fatigue go hand in hand. The more tired a fighter becomes, the harder it is to process feints, spot tells, and read incoming shots. It only takes one momentary lapse in concentration for a fight-ending shot to land. A knockout is the result of physics acting on biology. Sufficient force applied to the right target at the right moment with minimal resistance. The fighters who score the most devastating knockouts aren't always the ones with the heaviest hands. They're the ones who understand, consciously or instinctively, how to control the conditions that make knockouts happen. The science has been there all along. The best punchers just figured it out first. This has been Kobe from The Modern Martial Artist. Thank you for watching. One thing I am curious about for the people who train, do any of your coaches keep these things in mind? I know that in various sports or martial arts, we talk about vulnerable spots, but we've never really kind of delved into like why a hook to the chin would affect the brain. That's why I thought this was a cool video to make. Kind of thinking about the biology and how we can use known tactics to maximize the effect on biology. Are there any tactics that we missed? Any that your coaches have gone over or ones that you like to use? Let us know in the comments below. Before anyone leaves it, seeing red, while I've heard is effective, I'm not sure how you train it. If anybody has ideas, let me know. All right, thanks again. Have a great rest of your day, and see you in the next one.